Welcome back everyone to our gameplay series of Farming Simulator 17. So we're here early on in the morning, just before 7 a.m. and it is very foggy and there is a lot to talk about. So this is one of those times where I mentioned at the very beginning of this series that I'm brand new to this game. I've been playing Farming Sim 15 for quite a while and had never played Farming Sim 17 until just now at the beginning of this series. So I'm still going through a lot of the learning pains that we all go through whenever we get a new game and trying to figure out exactly how everything works, what the new features are, and so on. So what I want to start with is actually about the mod that we got, the Crone mower, and I actually got a comment on our most recent video letting me know that, hey, by the way, did you know that you can actually put a loading wagon on the back end of this thing? And I did not. So a huge thank you for letting me know that in the comment section. I actually thought about it whenever I first bought this thing. I was wondering about that, but then I quickly dismissed it because I took a look at these huge mowers that are on the back end here, and I thought logistically it just wasn't going to be feasible. I didn't think there was going to be enough room for all of this going on in the back. Turns out it works great after testing it out. So thank you very much for that comment, because that is definitely something I did not know and definitely did not think logistically it was going to be enough room back here for all of that. But it turns out it works out great. But then there is something else I want to show you guys. And you notice I've got everything sort of lined up over here out of the way. And that's because I wanted to start off the video and talk about this. Now you notice this does not look like what we've had here in the past. And the reason is, as you guys I'm sure remember, that I've been talking about that silage silo, the ability to convert grass into silage and not have to go through the front end loader and using the BGA and all sorts of things of that nature. Well, this streamlines the process, but the problem that we had with the existing silage silo mod, as I had mentioned, is your delivery point is on one side, but then at a 90-degree angle to that is your output for the silage, and it was causing some issues here and there, and I just really didn't like it the way it was set up. It served its purpose very nicely, and I don't have any problems with it as far as its functionality, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So I've been continuing to look for another possibility, and I found it in the fermenting silo. And we'll take a look at these in the actual store menu here in a minute, but they're fermenting silos, and there's either 4 or 5 of them in the mod. So what you do is over here on this side, you see that you're able to drop off chaff, straw, sugar beets, or grass or hay. Drop off any of those here, it will convert those into silage, which you could then pick up on the opposite side. So there you go. Here's the point where you load the silage. So what I did was I went in here before I started filming, and the first thing I did was to unload all of the existing silage. We still had some grass and silage in here, so I let all of that grass convert over to silage, and then I emptied all of it out, sold it all, and that's how we get to the 394,000 minus a little bit that we'll talk about here in just a moment. So I got it completely empty, and then I sold that, and then I simply bought this fermenting silo and tried to put it down as close to the same location as I could so that I could keep all of my existing routes through course play. And I believe we've done that. I believe this is extremely close, and as I have mapped out some of those visually, it looks like we're going to be perfectly fine there. I did have to do a new course for the silage so they could be sold, but I've taken care of that, and I think we're all squared away on that end, and that's just going to make things a lot easier, particularly whenever we get to the next location that we're going. In the next video or two, we're going to get over to the cow barn, and we're going to start dealing with cows, and of course we're going to need one of these over there. So let's go ahead and pull up the storefront, and let's take a look at this as a placeable. Now there's several silage silo type mods that are out there, and this is the one that I decided to get. Now there are actually several of these types of silos available in the mod. What I am using is the basic one. Now, the reason I'm calling it the basic one is simply because this particular mod silo only outputs silage. Okay, some of these others, silage and digestate. Then we get fertilizer. That's the artificial, the solid fertilizer that you can load up. Then you get fuel, and I believe there's one more that gets you, yes, the liquid fertilizer, the slurry type of fertilizer. And those are all really good. The reason I decided to go with the basic one here, because they're all the same price, is that it's got exactly what I was looking for. Now, these others have some great additional products, some additional outputs that would be awesome, but I almost feel like I'm stealing those, because my understanding is you get a 1-for-1 conversion of, in our case, grass to silage, and in the case of all these other silos, you still get that 1-to-1, but you also get a free additional product. And I really don't want that. I'm not trying to game the system. I'm trying to simplify things from the standpoint of creating silage and then getting it either to be sold or to our cows. But I'm really not trying to get a lot of free products. Now, had it been such that it wasn't a 1-to-1 ratio, in other words, the grass that I end up putting in here turns out to give me half as much silage, and the remainder of that, some of that goes toward the fuel or digestate or whatever the case may be, that's a little bit more appealing. But for our purposes, I'm sticking with straight grass to silage, and who knows, maybe at some point straw to silage. We'll see how all that goes. But I'm keeping it very basic here and not using any of the additional outputs that these others have for right now. We'll see how it goes in the future. So another big advantage here is 1 million liters in storage. That means that we have quite a bit of available space here. So we've got some things, some changes that are happening, and that's really going to free us up some. The ability of that mower, that humongous mower, to actually pull a loading wagon behind it is a lifesaver. I'm not sure we're going to use it on everything from here on out, but I do think in this particular area with these 3 fields, it's going to help us out a lot. Now, in the future, once we get over into some of the bigger fields and stuff, I might want to just turn the mower loose and let it do its thing and just continue to mow. And then maybe we're not necessarily loading up all the grass every time it mows. We might let it actually build up a little bit. So we'll have to see how that goes. But we at least have that option, and I'm all about options. The more options you have, the more fun we can potentially have. Another thing I wanted to talk about in today's video is right here. I have purchased a fertilizer. Now, we got several options for fertilizer available in the game, but I have chosen essentially the basic model. So if we come back in, just to give you guys an idea of what I have chosen, and we see we have 3 models for this type of fertilizer. Of course, you can get into slurry and so on, but we're not going to do that. We are using the very basic one. It has a 12-meter spread. We could go up one and get 24-meter spread, which is just nuts. I tested out with this one. This one also has 24 meters. The difference here being that this one can hold quite a bit more. That's actually not going to be an issue for us because I'm going to allow the AI to do all of the spreading, and they simply purchase the fertilizer as needed while they are spraying the fields. So we're going to go ahead right now. Let's first come in and take a look at what we have. Turn on grass. All right, so if we look at the growth, we just got done with 12 and 14 very recently, and of course 15 we're allowing it to grow some. We still got a little ways for it to go as well. So we're not ready to cut these right now, but if we come in under soil composition, now when you first start off at the very beginning on particularly field 12, it is in the dark blue, indicating that it is fully fertilized, just as what we see with field 15 here. But as soon as you get done with that first cutting of the field, that's now gone and you have no fertilizer on it. Now, as far as, let's actually go back a little ways. Some of the game settings I've turned withering off, which doesn't affect you on grass, but it'll affect us later on when we get into wheat and some other things maybe. I've also turned off the plowing, and the fertilizer states, as opposed to 3, I believe is what it is on the hard level, we are dealing with 1. So what is happening to us, and I noticed this quite by accident because in previous farming sim games, I had never fertilized grass, but what I had noticed is my yield was going down. And I wasn't sure why. At first, I just thought that my initial numbers were way overblown, that I had miscounted some way, like I counted some of these harvests twice. But it turns out that wasn't the case at all. They simply needed to be fertilized. So after doing a little bit of testing, it turns out, yep, they definitely needed to be fertilized. So another case of me being a new player to Farming Sim 17. This is something new for me in the game. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to fertilize, or at least two of the fields that actually need it. Wow, it would be really nice if we could get rid of this mess. All right, we're not going to use course play. By nature, I always hit that. Okay, now we're going to, I think we got it far enough over toward the edge. If not, that is not a huge deal. I think we're going to be okay, though. At least the vast majority of the field we'll get. I'm used to dealing with that 24-meter spreader. So, yeah, it looks like I missed a little bit there on the edge. We may get it at the end, if nothing else. But what this is going to do, as you see, now we're getting the real dark blue again because I have the number of fertilizations set to just one is all that's needed. So we don't have to worry about these other shades of blue. We're going straight to the very dark blue. All right, so we're going to let this guy take off with that. And again, he'll do this pretty quickly because, again, it's a 12-meter spread, so it will not take a whole lot of time at all for him to do that. So what else do we need to talk about? Well, for right now, let's go ahead and get this guy in place, even though it's not quite time for him to do anything just yet. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we've already got him loaded up. He's got a slightly different route this time. So what I've done is I'm taking this guy to where he comes in sort of at this type of an angle and sort of loads just so we're not headed straight at the opposing side and have to make too sharp of an angle. So let's go ahead and back up just a little bit. Okay, let's go to the nearest. No, let's start at the first. I'll tell you what. All right, everything is where it needs to be. Let's let this guy go ahead and get a chance to get lined up. Let's see if he does indeed. Okay, it looks like he's just, I got him almost a little bit too far, but it looks like he's okay. Let's hop out and let's make sure. Let's see. Okay, I think everything is set on automatic. And, well, it looks like it's actually set on automatic. We got to deal with our bushes here. I think we're okay there. We'll see once we get to that actual part. But now we've got something to deal with here. And because I have decided to actually go ahead and put the loading wagon on the back of our mower, now we have to make a decision. Do we want to keep this particular loading wagon? And my answer is no. No, I really don't. I want to go ahead and get the biggest of those. So let's go ahead and go back under loading wagon. We had talked about this before and upgrading these, but now we're looking at a situation where this 220 horsepower is a non-issue. We've got more than enough horsepower to pull the biggest of these. Now, cost-wise, is it really cost efficient to do this? No, I don't think it is. I still think that this is one of your best bangs for the buck, and that's just a personal opinion for me. But the fact that we can do this, I'm going to go ahead and go all out. Select the one with a 50,000 liter capacity, just so we can spend more time mowing and less time running back and forth. So we're going to go ahead, no upgrades or options to worry about here. So we're going to go ahead and spend the full 131,000. Makes me cringe just a little bit, but remember, it's all about fun. And let's go ahead and sell this loading wagon just so I can keep things simple. That's really what this is about. There are things in the future that we're going to be doing that we could probably keep this around and use it for, but we're going to keep things simple and only keep around the equipment that I think we're going to need at any given time. So now that means that this particular piece of equipment, we don't have anything for it to do just yet. But right now, let's go ahead and get it reset. That'll send it back to the store. Okay, this guy, I'm trying to keep an eye on him because we're going to need to get him started on another field. And let's see if we can't let this guy go ahead and pull this loading wagon back. Let's get our path loaded up. Let's make sure we're on, yes, point to point. Farm, new vehicle to farm. And let's go ahead and start out with the first waypoint and see if we can't get this thing to work right. Every once in a while, these don't want to load up just right. Alright, let's see how it turns out. I'm going to go ahead and do this max. And have it go a maximum of 20 miles per hour just to keep things pretty simple. Okay, so we're almost done. That guy's going to be on his way back. And let's turn on, make sure we activate this so he doesn't go wild and try to head back to his origin as soon as he gets here. Alright, so now you can see that real dark blue. That's exactly what we want. And right now we have it on field 12 and field 15 because we haven't done anything with field 15 just yet. Now we're also going to need this on field 14. So you can also notice that I am running at real-time speed right now, and that's because I want to make sure we get this part done before we speed up time once again. There's something else that I want to get done in today's video as well. This is more of a preparation video because by putting down this fertilizer, we are going to make a huge difference in the yield that we get. Just to give you an example, some testing I did, and these numbers will vary just depending on how exactly the mower and the pickup drive over the terrain. But just to give you some numbers to think about, we get about 146,000 liters of grass off of this field when it is fully fertilized. So that would be your first harvest. In fact, let's see. Let's go ahead and start this guy over a little bit farther than I did. Let's see. Yeah, that should get all the way to the end of the field, I think. Or at least extremely close. Good enough. Let's take a look at our map. Yes, you can see there that the dark blue is where we need it. So about 146,000 liters. What we've seen from our pricing schedule, if we scroll over. Okay, so here's our silage. Right now, these two, the BGA as well as the barn, are very close, and I find that for the most part, they're about the same. You'll have one that'll go way up to around 1,000, sometimes a little higher than that, while the other one's going down. So it varies. I mean, I really haven't seen an advantage from either one that would make me say, yeah, I've definitely got to use this one and can never use the other one because there's an advantage there. They seem to be about the same range, and it just depends on when you catch them. But so I've seen anywhere from 1,000 or maybe a little bit above that to down somewhere around 500. So if it's around 500, then we're still on field 12, still looking over 70 grand to make off of that field. So that alone is awesome. But if we catch the prices right, we could also make anywhere around, looks like we got our new equipment has made it here. We can make somewhere around 140,000 or more on the same field. So that's why it is so important. I mean, we're looking at, just on field 12 as an example, we're looking at a difference of around 70,000 potentially, just varying on the prices. And then that's assuming that we have these things fully fertilized. Now, if we don't fertilize it, then I'm looking at somewhere around 82,000 liters of grass off that same field. So you can see, I mean, that's just a huge difference there. 146 down to 82,000 liters. That is a huge difference. So it is one that I definitely don't want to ignore. Of course, you always got some price and cost involved in fertilizing because you got to pay the worker to do it in our case, and then you also got to pay for the fertilizer itself. But as far as I'm concerned, it is well worth it. All right, so let's move this guy out of the way for a moment because I need to bring the big guy over. Oh, look at me. I can't even see where I'm going. I'm running over the water tank here for the fountain. Getting lost in the fog. All right, so let's get this set up. But yeah, I never would have dreamed that logistically there was a way to fit this loading wagon at the back and still catch all of the grass that is being windrowed off of these rear. I mean, the front mower is easy enough. That's what we've been doing with a traditional setup of the front mower and the rear loading wagon. But I definitely did not think these two additional mowers would be able to windrow and it still be able to get inside the loading wagon. But sure enough, it works like a charm, and I could not be happier. So again, thank you very much for that comment. That was extremely helpful to me. All right, so we're going to get this guy over here. Again, it's not time to mow just yet, but now we've got everything in play to go ahead and make that happen. So now we're at a point where we've got $283,000. Let's go ahead and hop back on board, see how our guy is doing here on field 14. And it looks like he is nearly done. A small little area here on the edge of the field that he's got to cover, and he'll be done, completely done, and we'll be done with our fertilization efforts. And we'll be back in line to make some huge profits there off of the silage. All right, let's watch this guy. We're going to ride along with him as he finishes this up. So now let's talk about where we're going in the future. So I've been talking about, this first area. Now that we've got all three fields that will be up and running, all three of them very shortly. We've been working with a couple of them already. But now we're going to have all three up and running, and we are in good shape. We still got some upgrades to do. We've got to upgrade our tipper that is carrying the silage to be sold. That's something we'll do eventually as well. All right, there we go. We are done. I absolutely love the fact that I did not have to fill up before I could get this process started. The AI will simply purchase all of the fertilizer that we need. All right, so we're done with that. However, there's one more thing that I want to do. Let's see, where are we going to use? Let's see, let's use this guy. And let's see, let's drive across the field a little bit here, and let's get over to... All right, I think, let's take a look at the map real quick. I'm not exactly sure what we've got. Okay, so I'm looking at field 28. That's where we're about to head. Field 28, it shows that it is indeed fertilized. And okay, it's cultivated. So no growth right now. None whatsoever. Let's just go ahead and open everything up. It doesn't appear so, but let's just make sure before I get down there. Okay, no, it is, this is awesome. This is exactly what we need. So there's nothing currently growing, but it is cultivated, which means that what I need to do here is, first of all, see if I can actually get a camera angle that will help me out at all. Are we not going to let me... There we go, attach. All right, so we could just go ahead and have these guys actually go back to the farm. We could reset them, but no, we're going to actually take this trip on our own. And the reason we are going to do so is because we're going to head over to field 28 right now. Because going forward, I want to go ahead and get started with our efforts over there. Let me go ahead and press the 9 key one more time and get our mini map up here much larger. So field 28, if you'll notice, it is right over there at the... Ooh, watch out. Let me make this turn before I forget where I'm going. So it is right over by the cow barn. And that is significant because that's the next thing I want us to get into. I want us to get over to the cows. And as far as the percentage that we're going to get with the cows, I'm not terribly worried about that. Again, this isn't all about chasing the maximum amount of money that we could possibly get. We're not going to be looking at trying to get 100% from the cows. I tell you what, let's just go ahead and head this way. Let's head down through here. I'm not going to worry too much about trying to get 100% efficiency out of the cows. Not going to worry about that unless I can find a mod that will help me out with that too. But I'm not interested in mixing up the whatever it is, the power food or whatever they call it in this game. I'm not really all that interested in that. In fact, let's just go ahead and head out. Here is where we're headed right now. So now that we're here, let's take this down. So this is field 28. If you're not familiar, this is a great look at it, by the way, with all the fog out here on it. And indeed, it does look like it's been cultivated. Nothing is currently growing on it. So here is the cow area. Okay, here is one of two areas where we can feed our cows. The other one is actually right over there. The spot for water is right over there on the side. But this is a great area. This is going to allow us really to have a lot of ease in emptying for our cows, particularly with course play. It's going to make things a lot easier there. So what I've got to figure out is I got to do a little bit of math and figure out, okay, how much grass, if we just want to start out and only feed grass, I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, but if we only wanted to feed grass, take water out of the equation, we're going to have to provide water. So we're going to do that. But if we only provide grass, that'll get us to a maximum of 20%, not taking into account the cleanliness issue that we'll have to deal with. So that would get us only up to 20% efficiency if we just mowed the grass, dumped it over in the pen, and let them eat from there. If we convert it to silage, which of course we've got now a modded silo for that, then we go up to 50%. So this is where I'm looking at. I'm looking at the 50%, and then above that, we might in the future try to get up to about 70%. And combine the silage with the grass, but that's probably about as high as I'm going to try to go, just simply for me, just to keep things simple. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. But for right now, we've got something we need to do. Now, obviously, we can't come over here. I can't press R and say, hey, I'd like to buy this. We don't have that kind of money right now, but there's another option. Something we talked about at the very beginning with one of our mods, the credit union mod. We have field management. So if we come down here to 28, you can see that we have the ability to lease this field. So what this is going to mean is it's going to cost us $22,501 every day. Now that's going to be great for us because my plan is we're going to go ahead, lease this field. We're going to plant grass on it. And then for the next, I believe it gives us 60 days that we can pay this daily fee and keep control of this field before we lose control and it goes back to what is now the current owner. And I think we're going to have plenty of time to save up this amount of money and actually buy the field before our lease runs out. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Remaining is 60 days. We now have, you can see we have control of the field. And let's leave that. Now, unfortunately, right now we really only have this very basic planter here, the sower. So let's go ahead and get this guy started. It's going to take him forever to do this humongous field. I mean, this field is monstrous. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. For those of you who might not have played the game before, it's going to be extremely hard to tell just how huge this field is. The mini-map does not do it justice. So we're going to let this guy go ahead and get started. Of course, we could go in to the store and we could look at different cultivators and sowing machines, and we could get excited by coming over here to this side and looking at, this is one I really like right here because it gets rid of any cultivating that you might want to do or might have to do in the future. But of course, it costs us money and we would have to deal with what type of tractor we would be pulling it with, and we're not interested in spending all that money. Right now we're very focused on getting our cow operation up and going. So right now we've got the grass seed that is being sown right now on the field. In fact, if we come back up to our map, you see that on field 28, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see the green is starting to take shape. Oop, wrong one. And we'll start to see, you can just barely see a little bit of green there. So it's going to take this guy a long time, and that's okay. If it takes him quite a while, that is no big deal, because we got 60 days for this field, and the amount of money we're going to be able to get out of this is going to be huge. And now that's going to have us, if we pull back up our mini map, it's going to give us the ability to have fields 12, 14, and 15 making and selling silage for huge amounts of money. And then field 28 is going to be supporting quite a few cows as we continue to grow. So that's going to give us an idea of where I want to go in the future. Again, it's going to take this guy quite a while. That's why I wanted to go ahead and get him started. I'll let him continue on off camera. But for right now, that's going to do it. That's going to lay out a blueprint of how we're going to get going in the near future. We've got a lot of stuff to purchase. We've got a lot of money to make, quite frankly, and I am excited to do it. There's no telling what we might learn in the future about this game. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned as we continue our gameplay of Farming Simulator 17.